This is Lenovo's new LOQ gaming desktop, and it might be one of the most interesting desktops that they've released in quite some time. And there's a couple clever things that they've added to this system that really got me wanting to get my hands on one to do a video with them. Now, this is the first time I'm taking a look at one of their LOQ series PCs. LOQ, it is pronounced log. It's a step under the Legion brand, so it's more budget friendly. And this thing is actually coming in with a pretty small form factor when you compare it to other desktop PCs on the market, especially pre-built from these companies. But I gotta say, I do love the overall design that they went with, and it does have a tempered glass panel over on this side. It's a bit tinted. Go ahead and pull that off, and you can see we do have some RGB. This is fully controllable from Legion space. But the most interesting thing about this LOQ desktop PC is the fact that it's using a mobile processor. It's not a slouch by any means. It's actually a pretty fast Ryzen 7 mobile processor, but we've seen a couple companies do this with their gaming desktops recently, and it can definitely keep the price down in certain situations, given that we've got their LOQ series, which is a more budget-friendly offering from Lenovo. And they are offering this in a couple different configurations, but as you can see here, when it comes to the GPU, we've got that NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5060 Ti. And they've got a pretty big plastic bracket here. I mean, the GPU is not going to go anywhere. And the way they built this is actually really clean. I was surprised when I pulled the back panel off. Usually, some of these are just kind of thrown together, but I mean, this is super clean here. They do offer this with up to an 850 watt power supply, but given the specs we have here with that RTX 5060 Ti, we've got the 500 watt version. There's also two 3.5-inch drive slots down here, so if you wanted to add more storage, not a problem to do so. But as you can see, everything's tied up really nicely back here. And when it comes to the overall specs, like I mentioned, this is using a mobile CPU. It's actually the AMD Ryzen 7 8745HX. 8 cores, 16 threads. It's got a base clock of 3.6, a boost clock of 5.1, and it's based on Zen 4. Now, the main downside here is you won't be able to upgrade the CPU because it's a mobile platform. RAM is SODIMM. You can do up to 64 gigs with this system. We've also got that NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5060 Ti, which I do think pairs up really nicely with this 8745HX CPU. This came with 1TB M.2 SSD pre-installed, but we've actually got two slots here. They support 2280 drives, and you can do 2 terabytes each, so a total of 4 terabytes of M.2 storage with this system. Plus, if you remember, around back we've got enough room for two 3.5-inch drives if you need some more storage there. It's got Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.2, and this is running Windows 11 out of the box. So I've had this system up and running for a little while now, and it's been running amazingly. I've installed all of the drivers, so I've got everything updated here. We've got some games and some benchmarks that we're going to be testing out. As you can see, we've got that mobile chip. It's the AMD Ryzen 7 8745HX. Thought this was a bit odd, but we've been seeing manufacturers do this with some of their pre-built PCs. And to tell you the truth, if I didn't know this was a mobile chip, right off the bat, I wouldn't notice a performance difference at all between a desktop and mobile setup. Given what we've got here is actually pretty powerful. 32 gigs of RAM at 5200. It's SODIMM, so it's basically laptop RAM in this system. We've still got access to the Radeon iGPU, which just happens to be the Radeon 610M, which isn't going to get us very far in gaming on the iGPU. But we've got the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5060 Ti. 8 gigs of VRAM, and I kind of wish they would have added 12 here. A lot of people do, but this is still a really great card, and for 99% of the people out there, this is probably going to be more than enough. One thing I was interested in was just checking out the TDP on this mobile chip. So from GPU-Z, 8745HX, from Bench, we'll stress it out, and I've got hardware info up and running. Right down here, we'll zoom in just a bit. This jumps up to around 98 watts, so I'm going to call it, a 100-watt boost there, and then falls on down to around 85. So we've got a sustained TDP with this 8745HX of around 85 to 86 watts. Really good performance that I'm seeing so far. I'm going to keep an eye on temps, and from Legion space, we've basically got a balanced mode that we can choose from or performance. I'm in performance right now. It's been doing a great job like it is, but now I want to get into a couple benchmarks here. Then we're going to get into some gaming because this thing's really surprising with this setup. The first benchmark we have is Geekbench 6, coming in with a single core of 2,777 and a multi-core of 13,482. With this TDP set so high, it allows all of these cores to clock up to that 5.1 gigahertz mark there. So yeah, I mean, it's actually performing really well for a mobile chip here. Moving over to some GPU benchmarks with 3D Mark, we've got Steel Nomad, total score here 3,638, and our FPS was 36.38. And the final one we have here is Time Spy. Given that we've got that RTX 5060 Ti, not a bad score, coming in with a total of 14,866, and our graphics score is 15,713. Now it's time to take a look at some gaming on this machine, and the first one we have is Red Dead 2 at 1440p. The slider bar from the settings is something I personally hate, but it's maxed all the way out. Takes most everything that we have on the non-advanced menu up to Ultra, so I'm going to call it Ultra here. DLSS is set to quality, and without it, did dip a few times, but it wasn't too bad. Overall, I do think we're seeing some really good performance here. I also wanted to test out Doom the Dark Ages, and this is one of those games that just loves a lot of VRAM. From the settings, when you're messing around with them, it'll tell you how much VRAM you have and if you're going over. We're actually going over at 1440 high, even with DLSS set to balance. But I didn't notice a huge dip in performance, and I'm sure there may be some areas where it just kind of eats into system RAM and lowers that performance for us. But so far, it's great. Forza Horizon 5, just a very well optimized game, 1440p Ultra with no DLSS, so we don't need any scaling. And I had to go back just to make sure that I didn't have frame generation on, seeing the FPS is over 150. But this 5060 Ti does kind of handle this game really well at 1440. At 4K Ultra, we can still see over 100 FPS with this game. Extreme is a little out of the question with only 8 gigs of VRAM, it does give you that warning, but Ultra still looks great. God of War Ragnarok is another one that runs really well, and I forgot to turn off VSync from the game, so we're locked right there at 120. I do think we're up at around 135 with it on average, especially in battle here, because right now I'm at 1440p Ultra with DLSS set to quality. And finally, Cyberpunk 2077 at 1440p Ultra with DLSS set to balance. Now, when you go into this game, it's automatically gonna enable frame generation or DLSS frame gen. I definitely wanted to turn that off, and we're still seeing a great frame rate here, but I did have to add some DLSS scaling. Last thing I wanted to talk about were CPU and GPU temps, and this mobile CPU does run a bit hotter than like a desktop. I actually thought we'd see lower temps given that it's got a massive cooler when you compare it to, let's say, a laptop or a mini PC cooler. But overall, I didn't see it hit thermal throttle. So in performance mode from Legion Space, side panel on, average 1440p gaming, that CPU was around 79 degrees Celsius. Definitely a lot hotter than I'd like to see if it was a desktop CPU, but it is working out here. And the maximum recorded through all of my tests was 86, and it just kind of blipped up there for a second and came right back down. And as for GPU temps, with that RTX 5060 Ti, average 1440p gaming were only 56 degrees Celsius, and the maximum I recorded was 66 degrees. So nowhere near thermal throttle. And that CPU was kind of getting close at 86 degrees Celsius, but again, it was just kind of a blip and then came right back down. Obviously, a system like this isn't for everybody, and I'd say the main downside here is the fact that we can't upgrade that CPU. You could upgrade the RAM. The system only had 32. You can go up to 64. You could add a different GPU if you want to, but we're stuck with that CPU, the 8745HX. And yeah, I mean, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of computers do this in the future. Right now, we've seen a few manufacturers do these smaller form factor gaming PCs with these mobile chips, and I don't think it's going to stop here. But overall, I do like the design, performance is great, and if you're interested in learning a little more, I'll leave links in the description. You can pick this up over at Best Buy or Lenovo's website. And if there's anything else you want to see running on this, just let me know in the comments below. But that's going to wrap it up for this one. Like always, thanks for watching.